Hope you're all keeping safe and well. You may have seen in the last email sent out to you all that I've obviously been putting some tips in previous emails, but I sent out a little note in the last one to ask you guys if there's any specific parts of your game you wanted me to do a video on to help you improve. Now, I've had a few requests come through, but one of the main requests I've had is around chipping, which I think for a lot of golfers is quite often a problem area. You know, we can all generally hit the ball pretty well from tee to green, but when it comes to those little shots around the green, that's where I find a lot of golfers do start to lose a lot of shots. So I'm going to look at a couple of things that I see as common issues that people suffer with when it comes to chipping, and what you can do to overcome those. So it's going to be a bit of a sort of 2 to 3 part video. So first part I'm going to go through is how to get a good classic setup to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for failure when it comes to chipping, before we move into what things we can do in the swing action itself. Okay, so first part of getting a better chipping action or technique is how you set up. Now, do you still see a lot of golfers setting up in a way that they've got the club leaning very much forwards, very much towards the target, and when we're using any club to chip with, particularly our wedges, it's going to negate using the sole of the club. The sole of the club is there for a reason. It's to allow that club to slide and skid across the ground when trying to make contact with the ball. It's there to give you a bit of a buffer, if you will. It allows you to still get that club underneath the golf ball, even if you don't quite contact the ground in the right place. So by leading that club forward like so, it negates that bounce. It means you're going to very much likely get that leading edge digging into the ground. So that's when we can start to see those duff shots and the ball travels a few feet in front of you. Or if the ground is maybe a bit harder, the club then bounces too much off the ground, you catch up halfway up the ball and we see the scuttler across the green the other side. One way you can help negate that is making sure we set up with the shaft in what we would term a more neutral position, so just a more vertical position, and making sure that it's very much almost in line with the navel of your belly button, rather than leaning ahead of, or what would be for a right-handed golfer, to the left of your belly button, obviously to the right for a left-hander. So just make sure that you're setting that club up nice and neutrally, so we're not leaning it too far forward. Obviously it means you're going to retain the amount of loft on the club that you started with, rather than de-lofting it, which could affect the flight control. So get that set up right in the first place, give that a little bit of a practice, making sure, using a mirror is a great way of doing it, or using your phone setup and just filming yourself. Just making sure that we're not leaning that shaft too far forwards and keeping it much more in line with the body and the belly button, as I said. Okay, so when it comes to the swing part of the chipping action, there's 2 main faults that I see quite commonly when I do chipping lessons. Now, they tend to sometimes correlate as well, because it tends to be born out of the golfer trying to add loft to the club or trying to help the ball up into the air. So there's 2 main faults that I see, and typically when I see one of them work on that, they sometimes revert to the other one that I'll come on to in a second. But the first, most common one, is an excessive wristy, flippy action like so, and very little body action. It's very much just a flip of the club. As I say, it's all born out of trying to add loft to the club or trying to get the ball up into the air. Now, whilst conceptually that might make sense, all that's really going to serve to do is mean that the club is going to be going in this action towards the ball. So you're just going to present this leading edge of the club at the golf ball. So if you manage to miss the ground and don't duff the ball, you're very likely to catch the ball halfway up, catch it thin, and you see that scuttle shot running across the other side of the green, and all of a sudden, our shot score starts to rise massively. So what we need to do is start using a bit more of a body action. You've got to remember that chipping is just a mini swing version of your full swing. We don't see full swings that are just very much a flip of the hands, because 1, you're not going to generate very much power from it, and 2, it doesn't work anatomically. So just try and take it to more of like a mini swing of your full swing, and make sure that rotation is in there. So as we're chipping towards our target, we want to make sure that we're turning the body through towards that target. So try and get the navel or your belt buckle to point where you're chipping to the golf ball. If you were somebody who's very, very flicky, very wristy action, you'd almost see the finish like so. So the club kind of flicked up into the air, but my body is really not facing that target, it's facing more towards where the golfer was or to the side of the target here. So feel like you're just going to work on rotating that body through, going to help reduce that hand action, really quieten that hand action, so you can then start to get some much better contact and start controlling distance to those chip shots better. Okay, so the second most common issue I see in people's chipping actions that causes faults and poor striking is where the weight moves through the hip. Now, as I mentioned in the previous clip on rotating the body through to target, the chipping swing is a mini version of your swing. Now in your full swing, we should all be shifting our weight to our forward side to be able to get good quality ball striking, and we should be doing something very similar, or just maybe on a smaller scale in our chipping actions. Now what I tend to find is that when we work on people who have that wristy action as mentioned in the previous clip, and we start getting rotating better to the target, generally their weight shift gets better with it as well, because it helps do so. But sometimes in a way to get that loft added to the club, or to still get that ball up in the air, they start to want to hang back on the right foot and tilt backwards again, just to help add that loft or get that ball upwards. So one thing you can do to help that is to place something underneath your forward foot, so left foot as a right hander or right foot as a left hander. I've just got a red disc as from my Colour Path kit here, but it could be just, you could use a sponge, you could use a cushion, just something that you can feel underneath that forward foot. Place it on whatever it is, and then as you make that chipping action, it's maintaining your weight pushing onto that forward leg and onto that item that you're using underneath your foot, and then rotating through, adding that first portion that we just spoke about a moment ago. So that way you're going to get the combination of both those points working together, so you're not going to then try and compensate by changing one element or the other to try and add that loft to the golf ball, or to try and add loft to the club to get your ball up into the air. So add that with the little setup that we did at the start. I think that should really start to help you improve your chipping contact and your consistency of your strike, and then naturally it's going to help you control your distance better in and around the greens, which ultimately should help you score much better. So give those a try, and if you've got any other things you want me to cover in terms of the golf swing or technique or common issues that you struggle with, then please do send me a message and I'll do another video to help you out with that as well.